Hey everybody, it's Lavender Town. And today I'm going to do something I haven't done in a long time, and that is a style challenge. But more specifically, I'm going to be doing anime styles because lately I've been more interested in trying to go back and draw a little bit more anime, just because I haven't done it in forever. I've been drawing pretty much solely in my own style for like 2 years now, and I don't know, I just felt like sort of switching it up, and I'm realizing that I'm so stuck in my style that like it's actually really hard to move over to some other stuff. So I find the best way to sort of shake off that kind of problem is by directly trying to mimic some styles of artists you respect. So I'm going to be going over some of the anime I've most been watching and enjoying recently, as well as some that I just really remember the style being very distinctive, and I'm going to see how well I can copy it. Obviously no tracing or anything, I'm going to just be looking at reference pictures. And the goal is to be at least as close to that style that it's possible you can imagine this character being in that world. So that's really what I'm aiming for. Some of the major things that I noticed that are different from my style to all of the anime styles that I picked out here are line weight. That's one of the biggest things, and that's been sort of a consistent thing I've noticed overall, is that anime often has much thinner lines to the point that they almost kind of disappear once the art is colored in. Western cartoons seem to have more emphasis on the lines having a character of their own and being sort of thicker and more noticeable, whereas in anime it seems like they want it to be a little bit more delicate looking, and that just seems to be a general like cultural difference. So of course there are many anime with thicker lines and many Western cartoons. Well, actually I don't know, I'm trying to think of Western cartoons that have a thinner line art style. I'm not actually sure I can think of any right off the bat, but I'm sure there are some. But enough rambling on. I am basically finished with this first sort of sample, and it is time to start on our first style challenge series. So this first one is The Promised Neverland. Now this is a relatively recent anime. It just got its first season, and I watched the whole thing in a matter of days because I thought it was really great. I'm not going to spoil anything about it. It is a bit scary, so if you don't like scary stuff, I don't necessarily recommend it to you, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and recently I went to an anime convention and actually got to have a poster of the show autographed by one of the character designers and the voice actress for Emma, the main character. And one of the things I noticed right off the bat when I first started watching it is that their faces are very weird. Like it was really off-putting when I first started watching it, and then I just totally got into it. But basically their faces are quite condensed on their head, and it actually makes them look quite cute, but when you first start watching it, it can be kind of weird, and some of the characters seem to have foreheads that just go on forever, but it does make sense since they're so young to give them these more sort of condensed facial proportions. The characters are only like 11, so they are a bit younger than a lot of anime main characters that you usually see, and one of the things I really appreciated in this series art-wise was that it seemed like they had a really good idea of how to set a mood with lighting. They didn't shy away from that at all. They didn't do too much like direct shading on the characters. You don't often see like their noses shaded or underneath their lip or anything. It's very subtle, but they tend to use a lot of shading to like establish the atmosphere and the mood, and that really works well. So I think this one turned out really well. I think the eye is slightly too big, but other than that I was pretty happy with how this one turned out. Next style I wanted to mimic is from Mob Psycho 100. Now this anime has been popular for a while, and it has a very distinctive style, very reminiscent of One Punch Man, and it has this very distinctive sort of like, I don't even know, it's like a half-lidded sort of very simple anime eye. Usually anime really gets into the eye and gives it lots of dimension, but in Mob Psycho 100 it's basically just like a big black dot in a half-lidded sort of position most of the time, and I think it leads to some quite funny moments and faces. And the interesting thing is that this anime is very detailed in the animation a lot of the time. Like the movement looks really fluid, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff that goes on in the show that can start to look really interesting, and the very simplified faces sort of play off that really well. I'm actually not very far in this one. It's kind of something I've just started, but I thought the art style was too unique not to do in this challenge. I really like the very harsh, intense highlight that they do on the hair. It makes it look really cool. Next up is a long-time classic, an anime that truly has been in my heart ever since I was like 12 or 13. The first volume of manga I ever bought was Fruits Basket #1, so needless to say, this was very formative for me. This shot is actually from the new anime that's just coming out. I think they only have 3 episodes out, and I'm caught up on all of them. I'm really excited to see animated the manga story, because the first anime was done while the manga was still ongoing, so it had to stop before the manga was finished, and this one should have the full story, which is really great. I also honestly think that they did a good job with the way that they redesigned and animated it. I can't even tell you how much better Yuki and Kyo look. Like they were really quite pointy and awkward looking in the original anime, and I loved it anyway, but I really like seeing them animated a little bit with more detail and a little bit higher of a budget, because it is quite a wonderful story and I think it deserves it. So for this one, my main struggle was just making it look as like soft and cute as the sample that I had up top. Toru is mainly a warm palette kind of character, and this character has blue-black hair, so that was something I had a little difficulty with. The lines are very thin, and they're also brownish red because that's the color of the lines in the sample, but I realized that I actually had to darken it down just to make it look a little clearer and less blurry. This is probably the one I'm the least happy with. Next up is My Hero Academia, possibly the most popular anime that's currently running. It's got quite a few seasons now, and I don't expect it will stop anytime soon. I'm only up to the 2nd season so far, and I really, really love it. It gives me all these same vibes as I used to feel when I was watching shonen anime back when I was younger, but I think it's an updated, maybe quite a bit better version of the kind of shows I was watching when I was a kid, and I really like it. It's very sincere, which is always great in these genres. The art style is really unique. I quite like it. It has very small noses high up by the eyes, especially for most of the main characters. And I used references of both Uraraka and Deku to try to combine multiple, visual elements of this style. So Deku's really dark black shadows on his hair is something that I incorporated because I think that's one of the more iconic parts of this style. Much like with the other anime attempts that I had done previously, the shading is pretty light. It doesn't draw a lot of attention to itself, and it usually stays relatively hard and cel shaded, so I didn't do any blending of any kind. Next up is a show that I literally have kind of a mini shrine to. It's one of my favorite anime of all time, and that is Madoka. A lot of people love Madoka. The things that really attracted me to it were the characters and the mysterious sort of writing I really liked, but mainly the risks they were willing to take with the animation. The surreal vibe that they were able to get when it comes to like the witches world and all the weird mixed media stuff that they were able to do really made for a unforgettable looking anime, and even though I didn't really like the way their faces were drawn at first, it comes to really fit the style, I think. One of the most difficult things about this is that the line art looks kind of scritchy, especially in certain shots that I was finding. The sort of jaw line is usually like doubled up, and it's very difficult to replicate in a way that doesn't look sloppy, but I did my best. I used both Madoka and Homura references to try to get the right face for my character, and mainly I just tried to get that super light, super feathery sort of looking line art and colors to look similar. I don't know how successful this one was, but I did try my best. Last up, I'm trying the art style from an anime called Wandering Sun. It is a really beautiful anime and it has an incredibly gorgeous art style. I honestly don't know how they manage the watercolory look of it because a lot of animation uses these hard line cell shading because it's a lot easier to move the shading around in a way that doesn't flicker or look weird. But somehow this anime has the softest, most beautiful coloring and it still looks really good while it's being animated. It doesn't look like the colors are shifting around in a weird way. It's honestly just a feat. I don't know how they managed it. It also looks the most like real media, but you can tell in the smoothness and everything that it is digital. But it's really honestly hard to believe. You feel like you're watching like a children's illustration come to life or something. The line art is pretty smooth, it doesn't have a lot of tooth on it, but as with a lot of the other ones, it's extremely thin, to the point that I don't even think I got it thin enough in my example. For the colors, I mostly tried to capture that softness by just sort of blobbing around different shading colors and then blurring them until you can barely see them over and over until I had sort of a mottled look to it, and then I added in all the shading and blurred that as well. I think I did alright on the coloring, but I do think the lines could be a little thinner. So that about wraps up this style challenge. I hope you guys think I did okay. It was really fun to try out some other styles. I haven't done anything like this in quite a while. Thank you so much for watching till the end, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you to all of my patrons, including Bella Story, Blue Boy, Kalpam Caramel TV, Clockwork Construct, Dionysus Hadgeralis, Dr. Casket, Elizabeth Album, Hope Chilsum, Imagine Creations, JJ Jade, Joseph Copel, Carla Tapia, Katie Marigold, Kierjadert, Blah, Megan Claire, Midnight Doodles, Micah Dactyl, Moosadeer Rachel, Nora Cornelison, Okamore, Ollie, Rosie Warlock, Sergeant Pendulum, Tony and Tug, The Artsy Moose, Tyler, Your Boy ST, and Zoe Stardust.